All right, so today I'm gonna take a walk down this creek and see if I can't find any old glass bottles. There's a bunch of areas down this way, probably good half mile or so, a little bit past the highway, where there's several areas of rock outcroppings, which occasionally after thunderstorms, big washouts, glass washes up on those areas, and sometimes, if you're very lucky, you can find a full intact bottle. Now, this town was founded in, I believe it's 1784, somewhere around there, maybe a little earlier. So a lot of the stuff in this creek can be dated around to that time, especially the glass bottles that I've occasionally found down here. Sometimes you can find rarer, like this dark blue cobalt glass, which is very, very pretty. And oftentimes these bottles held medicine or other things, such as, like, I don't know, sometimes common thing I find are these bottoms to big brown jars, which have Clorox embossed into them. So assuming that they're bleach containers, those are pretty common. But yeah, so take y'all down this creek. It's gonna be a while until we can actually get to the spot where there could be some stuff, but could find some cool things along the way. Whoops. Very slippery around this area. Tends to get a bit better further down, but right here, where it's still more in the town area, for some reason the rocks, they like to be pretty slippery. But yeah, so before we get to the nice areas, we got a few bridges to go under, a couple areas to traverse, but it shouldn't be too bad. I think the whole route is roughly about maybe 1.5 to 2 miles until the very end where I exit and go back home. Yeah, I've done this creek walk, man, probably a good at least a dozen times by now. More often than not, I'll find shards, I'll pick them up. And I like to save those for a project I want to do in the future. I make a mosaic out of old 18th and 19th century glass. I think that'd be pretty neat. But yeah, if I'm lucky, can maybe find a whole bottle, or maybe I believe they're called milk glass jars, usually for like makeup, I believe. I have a couple of those. Those are pretty neat. Usually I find the full shards, and then it's rare that I find a full intact jar, but hey, maybe after these storms, something's washed up around this bend. It starts to get a bit more narrow, so it starts to get a little more quick. All right, coming up here, we're getting our first bridge. All right, not too bad. Oh. Almost went in. Almost went completely in. If you ever do this, make sure when you're in the middle of the water, before you commit fully to a step, that it feels level, stable, and not slick. So if it's any of those things, there's a good chance that you're gonna fall in and don't want to bang your knee, hurt your arm, or worse, I guess fall on something that probably wouldn't feel good to fall on. I'm sure there's a lot of glass and metal in this creek. Definitely don't want to fall into any of that. Yeah, make sure you're wearing shoes. Definitely don't want to be doing this on bare feet or flip-flops. I've lost many a flip-flop down this creek. Now we're starting to get into the more rural parts of it. It's still very much in the town, but from here on out, it's starting to get more and more wild. The last section of real activity, I guess you could say, is the highway up here. I'm gonna pass under it, under a bridge, briefly. This spot in particular is pretty annoying to get past. Down there, I think it's man-made. I'd have to be like, this looks like a big slab, but down there, under that water, is a big slab of concrete or maybe some kind of stone. Very slick, so not sure how this thing got here, but this is a very, very good way to get down for me. Climb right up here and walk on down. Sometimes after storms, that thing's a little wet, a little slick, so sometimes I'll just climb on down that, but why take the risk, right? Anytime you're doing something like this where there's a chance of injury, whether it be from slipping, something like that, don't want to bash your head off a rock. Just, whoa, yeah, just like that. Be as safe as possible, and don't push yourself out of your comfort zone. That's when it could get a little dicey. Do what your body can do. And over time, you'll get better, more balanced, stronger, more endurance, and you can do bigger and better things. My big goal is I'd like to tackle all the summits in both the Catskill and the Adirondack Mountains here in New York. I think that'd be a really cool thing to do. Definitely got a long ways to go, but stuff like this and hiking and other incline activities, very good way of doing it. So far I've gotten Slide Mountain, which funny enough, I believe is actually the tallest mountain in the Catskills. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that was a pretty fun time. Oh, almost completely went in. Yeah, I went there, a bunch of my friends. It was very fun, but man, a lot of stuff went wrong. We brought propane, and we were able to cook dinner that night. We had steaks, and they were damn good steaks. So good that even someone else's dog came up and visited us, which was a little scary in the sense of the amount of smells we were giving off, considering bears are very likely a thing out there. I mean, just black bears, but still. But the next morning, we were trying to make breakfast, cooking bacon, and all of a sudden, it all goes out. Didn't get breakfast. Kind of stunk. And that eventually led to us leaving a bit early. Oh, hello. And then we tried to get to the summit, which we did, but about maybe a half hour into the climb of like probably what was told to be like an hour and a half, we set up camp probably a good way, like halfway up the mountain already, which was in itself an absolute slog. Our cooler handle broke and all of our food almost went tumbling down the hill, or mountain for that matter, but still not bad. No, pretty bad actually, yeah, pretty bad. But yeah, as I was saying, yeah, half hour into it, it starts downpouring. And I'm telling you, like, eventually a small stream starts running down the middle of the trail. But we pretty much ran the rest of the way up there, got to the peak, could see absolutely nothing, which was quite sad because on the images, the views were absolutely immaculate. But I could still say I had been to the summit of Slide Mountain. So I don't know how many other ones there are to go, but I'd like to get them eventually. I think it's important for people to have aspirations and goals and dreams in mind. I know that sounds kind of cliche, but I don't know. Walks like this get me thinking, and yeah, something I've been thinking about recently is just people. I feel like people today feel stuck or complacent with the things going on around them in a way. If you understand what I'm saying? Like, complacent in the sense that people are content with, and even to a certain extent, like maybe even comfortable with the current, let's say, like economic system, you could say, like the 9 to 5, the living paycheck to paycheck. I believe there's a statistic where it's 60% of Americans currently live paycheck to paycheck, and it makes me wonder if it's such a significant amount of people, why is no one really talking about it, I guess. Like, from personal experience, I graduated from college, I finished my master's, I got in history in December of 2025, so last year, and ever since, I have not been able to find employment, whether it be minimum wage jobs, completely just entry-level positions, jobs outside my major. I think I've applied to maybe 400 or so things right now, and of those, I'd say a good 50, maybe if you're stretching it, 100 of those apply like to my major in some form and fashion. Probably another half of those apply directly to my major, and of them I've heard back from none. I got one interview for a human resource position. Didn't make it to the second part though, unfortunately, so that was that. And did a little subbing at a school for a little bit. Summer right now, so there's no work for that. But yeah, it's been an absolute struggle. And from things I'm seeing from different sources, I guess you could say, whether it be news, studies, YouTube videos, people breaking this stuff down, it ain't looking good. It's just not. I guess what I've heard recently is we're in what's called a K-shaped economy, which I believe from what I understand, the basic understanding of that is that while like GDP, like the country's GDP is like going up and like the stock market is reaching all-time highs, the living standards and purchasing power, I believe also you could say, of people is going down, hence making sort of a K-shape. Cross over here, it looks a bit tamer this way. But, okay, yeah. A lot of power over, but as I was saying, given how the way everything is right now, whether you see it or not, I choose to believe that majority of people right now are experiencing a less like, I don't know how to say it, almost like a life of more restrictions in a way, where in order to maintain what you have to make sacrifices of comforts, and for some people even just outright necessities. Like, for me, I'm young, I'm in my early 20s, I'm not married, I don't have a house, and I'm feeling the squeeze. I feel stuck. I feel like even if I were to get a job currently, I would still be in a cycle of work, the little bit of rest, which doesn't really feel like rest because you're worrying about everything, and then it repeats. It's no wonder why so many people are feeling burnout. And I couldn't imagine someone who has kids, who has a house, who has car payments, who has loans, which I have loans, but currently I'm still in the grace period, thank God. Not for very much longer though, but still. Someone who has far more financial responsibilities and obligations and debts, I could not imagine. So I guess the moral of the story is of this, of what, like, I guess ideally I think should happen is people need to understand, and I think that this is something that has been like pushed heavily on since school, like, since like kindergarten, like as young as you're able to, as far as you're able to like even like think of, you grow up, you go to school, you graduate high school, you go to college, you do your thing, and then after college you get a great career, buy a house, start a family, retire when you're 65. That is, I believe, that is the so-called American dream. That is what has been sold to people since, what, it's gotta be since the Second World War. And that worked. That in fact was a great way, that was a great way to have an amazing life back in the 40s, 50s, 60s, in that ballpark, if you were able to accomplish that. Now granted, there were other very glaring issues in the social sphere, but economically, this country has never experienced a better anything. So because of that, that way of life, that trajectory doesn't exactly work anymore. Hence why it's been called like the rat race. All right. I don't like this. There's a lot of spiders that hang on these trees. I'm gonna crouch down real low real quick. You might just see pure water. Oh shit, there's one like in there. I'll go through here. All right, I'm through. Okay. Anything on the lens? I think we're good. Hopefully not. But yeah, so recognizing that if I were to stay in line, which until now I've arguably stayed in that line, and I think I should have like a I fell for it award sort of thing. I've been put into debt with no real good way to get out of it, even though I was told by everybody pretty much that this is the way to do. I did what I was told to do. I did good in school. I took my AP classes, got college credit, went to college, got my bachelor's, immediately went for a master's, and now I'm here. And I don't see a light at the end of the tunnel. So because of that, my entire goal in life is to buy my own land, build a house, and live sustainably. Grow my own food, and I guess try to separate myself as much as possible from the greater system. Now that is easier said than done, and I understand that is extremely hard work, even possibly harder than just getting a normal career. But I think what's important is that it is fulfilling for me personally. And I understand that people currently are living the lives that I cannot imagine, such as having kids, having a house, having car payments, and they are very happy. And I'm happy for them that they can do that. But I guess for what I see to be the current state of things and the current trajectory of things, I want to get out. But enough of that. We are here. Let's see if we can find any bottles. I'm sure there'll be lots of glass. Currently any blue or green pieces I have been taking. I have plenty of like clear and brown pieces, but the greens and the blues are far rarer. So they're definitely of more importance to me right now for the purpose of making like a mosaic or something like that with them. Funny enough, not seeing too much here, but usually it's the places further ahead that have the majority of things. Up here is actually I think you can see in the distance over there, a beaver dam. I think it's abandoned, but last summer it was actually primarily on the left side of the creek over there. It's completely shifted and diverted since last winter. And years ago, I did something very stupid, which no one should ever do, and that is climb on a beaver dam, and I almost broke my leg. Climbing right on it, and then I believe it's my right leg, a branch broke, and I fell all the way in pretty much, just my leg, not my whole body. But what could have happened is what did happen is my leg got wedged between two logs, and thank God I fell backwards, because if I fell forwards, I would have snapped my leg right in the kneecap, and that would have been an awful place to get out of. Absolutely horrific, but luckily I only got a few gashes. So yeah, never climb on beaver dams. Just an accident waiting to happen. Sometimes in these side parts you can find bottles which have deposited, and usually they stay intact if they're in the silty parts, but on the rocks they tend to bounce around and break up into shards. Now, from my understanding, how this stuff usually gets in here is back then, people, of course, lived near water, and I believe they would occasionally just dump their certain wastes into the water or near it in dump spots. So occasionally you can find full areas. Like I think this looks like some kind of like fence post sort of thing, maybe. Not sure. Actually, it might just be like a car part. Who knows? But yeah, they'll deposit their trash and stuff into a pile, and over time, over the decades, even centuries since that, it erodes away and washes into the creek and collects. And actually, around here, I found an old dump spot and have taken out maybe, dozens of bottles, all ranging from likely, I believe in that specific spot, the 1930s to about the 1980s, maybe the 90s, maybe the very early 90s. But this stuff in here is definitely from likely the mid to late 18th century, from the early settlers, and some of these things can be dated till back then. I believe in here, the latest you'll find, you'll probably find all sorts of ranges, but the primary range is probably from, say, 1740 to 1880-ish. I want to say, one time I found a tile. I believe it had a date marked in the mid to late 1800s. Oh, here's our first piece of glass. It's I think you can see it, very light turquoise color. We'll be taking that. Now, that is a rare piece. You rarely find purples or reds or sort of things. That is a nice piece of purple glass. That's cool. Yeah, this stuff is pretty much everywhere, and every time there's a storm, more and more washes up. But yeah, here's a few pieces of brown and clear, but I got plenty of that for right now, so it can stay. So yeah, these areas probably go for about another half mile or so until we reach the bridge, while I will exit, as the deposits tend to get pretty light up there. Looks like so far not too much is washed up in these areas. I've seen a few pieces, but nothing crazy. But then again, this area is also a pretty light spot. There's not usually too much around here. It's usually up here a ways where it's the places are larger and siltier. More bends for stuff to get caught up on. That's how that works. But looks like these logs have moved a bit since I've been here last. Hopefully it's not too deep here. Just gonna go under that one, ideally. It's getting pretty deep. Not too bad. Yeah, this will be all right. Another thing to be careful of, especially when you're around like trees and branches and that kind of stuff, is don't get caught up on underwater branches. Those can really snag your feet sometimes, and if you're in a bad spot where the water's rushing, that could lead to something really bad. But this looks good enough for the purposes. Go under it once. Okay. Don't want to dump the phone. Oh, that was close. All right, we're good though. Neat design on this little piece. Oh, no way. Another piece of purple glass. That is crazy. That's a big piece too. Usually you don't find ones these big, at least around here. Thick piece of green as well, not bad. Very nice. And here's a little piece of that milk glass. About half a bottle. Would have been neat, or jar, I mean. Would have been neat if that was full. Still cool though. Couple pieces of something here. Piece of green. Turquoise part sticking out. A bigger piece, huh? There we go. That would be neat if it was a full one. What did it say? Roch. I bet that says fully, well, at least it would have said Rochester. Nice couple pieces of turquoise. I like seeing that. It's my favorite colors right here. Alright, looks like it's getting pretty sparse around here, so I think we'll go on to the next area. See anything in there? I don't. Little tiny piece. Turquoise. Ugh. Something splashed up on me. Almost by my mouth. I think that was my shoe. There we go. A lot of turquoise coming out today. Little crawfish claw. Sometimes you can find really pretty pieces of china. One time I found it's such a shame that wasn't a full plate, but probably like a 4 to 5 inch wide plate, half of it. Oh my God, this is the prettiest design. Got something weird under here. Thick piece of glass. Oh, actually, bottleneck. Yep. Ah! Or a flip phone. How long has this been here? Or at least in this creek. Oh, I see a piece of green over here. Actually might be just turquoise. Nah, light green. That's good skipping stone. More power. Got one. Right here. Let's do a real one. Oh, okay. Yep, that was a big one. That was too big. I need a wider plane. And let me try it out here. Actually, get a better distance. That was pretty good. That was a good one. A little too much height. Oh, that was going good and it clunked. You know what? I'll give it a little skipping rocks tutorial if you don't know how to do it semi good at least. I'm not special, but I can skip a mean rock. So you're gonna want to get like a sort of something like this. It's pretty round. Like honestly, this one might be a bit better. Something like this, flat. Something you can get a nice grip on. This might be it. Oops. Yeah, something you get like a nice snap. What you want to do? Want to get into water? Get a good distance of water skip down. You're gonna want to hold it, something like this. And what you're gonna do, you want to bring it back, and you're gonna want to throw it. Try to get low too, get even with the water so it skips better. So you don't have to get it so you don't make it do a big jump. And then it's almost like a motion of maybe like cracking a whip in a way. You're gonna want to bring it all the way back, and at the very last part, snap your wrist. So like, yeah, now that was a little too high. Now you're gonna want to bring it back, snap it, and you get that. Pretty neat. I almost feel there's like a better chance of finding something intact while it's still in the water itself before it has a chance to like really get bunched up. It's still settled at the bottom. The water didn't run too fast. If that's how that works at all. Maybe. This is probably one of my favorite spots coming up here. Around that bend up there, there's a bit of like a landslide sort of thing going on. Really cool looking. Yeah, you can see where the land is falling out. Looks like there's a new tree down there that wasn't there before. Yeah, shut up. Oh, yeah? You can also find clay up here. I kind of... One time I built a pottery wheel. Like I think it was a... Oh, there's a horsefly getting me. It was a kick wheel. Worked off of, I believe it's a centripetal force. It's either that or centrifugal. I think it's centripetal force, where the spinning of a heavy weight, in this case, it was about 200 pounds of concrete put in a big, like, plastic flower planter sort of thing, like a big tub. Attached to like I think it was an inch wide steel shaft with a plywood plate at the top. And yeah, I'd like to rebuild that thing. I had to take it apart because I moved out an apartment. But I'd like to rebuild that, and maybe I can get some good clay from here. Probably have to build something to get it out here, some kind of like barge sort of thing, or I don't know if I really want to carry like giant 5-gallon buckets, but we'll see. Be something. Probably clear a bunch of that brush there too if that's the way I'm going to do it. Oh, something fell in there. Pretty cool place. Get off of me, beast. Damn horse flies everywhere. Oh, here we go. Starting to get some stuff. 12 fluid ounces. This is probably like an old soda bottle. This place usually gets a good bit of stuff. I think it's because it's just so even and shallow. Holds the ground. Yeah, a few more. A lot of small pieces, I'll say, wash up here. Rarely find anything too big. We'll see. One time I did find an almost complete tiny cobalt blue vial. But the top was broken off a little bit, unfortunately, but still pretty cool find. Oh, here we go. It's got some writing on it. That's neat. What does that say? Price they pastured, if I had to guess. Totally. Now here's a nice piece of not cobalt, the turquoise color. Nice dark turquoise. Get away from me. There's things all over me. Get away, beast. Gosh. See a little bottom. It's clear, but I think I'm gonna take it. It's kind of cool looking. Notice as I get further and further up in these banks, there's a lot more rust and pieces of metal strewn about. Oh, that's key. That's cool. Part of an old insulator cap. Yep. Old ceramic one. Well, I think this is ceramic at least. Yeah, it looks ceramic. It's neat. I have similar to this, a almost complete dark green glass one. That was pretty cool too. Found that near an old railroad bed. Oh, very tiny, but that's the first piece of cobalt blue glass right here. Kind of cool. Rarest glass, well, aside from like the really, really rare colors like purple and red, that's the rarest color by far. Ooh, here's a really deep turquoise piece. That's very pretty. Citizens, let's see. Here's the end of that one spot where the beaver dam is. Second one. Ain't no way anyone getting through that. I always think eventually something will be in this little ditch right here. Doesn't look like there is today, though. Maybe another time. Now here we go. This is pretty neat. I'm gonna wash this up. I think we got a couple of fossils in here. Yep. A few clam sort of things in here. I wonder what these actually are. But yeah, a couple neat things in here. One time I found a really neat one when I was younger. It was a brown rock, and I thought I had like a bunch of clay on it, so I started like scraping away, but I realized under the clay there was this imprint of like probably this long, of like some kind of this like thick, some kind of worm sort of thing. Then I realized that the clay at the end was a bit harder, and I removed it, washed off, and there's an actual little end segment of the worm itself, which is pretty dang neat. All right, I believe we're getting to the end. I think around this part right here, which I'm just gonna walk to the side of, that'd be awful to walk through. I think around that side you can I think there's maybe a few more spots, and then you get to the end. I haven't found anything complete yet, but that's pretty rare in itself. Still found a lot of cool shards though. Purple ones were pretty dang neat. Got a nice couple, nice few turquoise ones as well. That real dark one was real nice. If anyone happens to see this, let me know what y'all think about the pacing of it, I guess. I'm not too big of a talker, so let me know what you think about like occasional bits of it, and then occasional stretches of just silence and just listening to the environment around it. Sometimes I just like to listen. Don't know if the camera's picking up the highway sounds in the background, but it'd be nice if that was right there. Oh, never mind. At the very end, we got a very light piece of purple. That's nice to end on. Very light, but still purple. Cool. Wonder why all the purple pieces have those thin lines on them, those ridges. Probably can figure out what those are specifically used for. Yep, so there's the bridge. I think I'll leave it at that. Later.